Hello. This is my first time doing a, using this web camera first of all, so I hope that this works. But I'm also submitting a book title, or a book, one of the options for the book challenge for my favorite book as a child, which is right here, The Value of Believing in Yourself, the story of Dr. Louis Pasteur. Canon, I am doing a web video, so you're going to have to wait. If you would like, you can sit right there and watch me listen, or listen to me read the story. Okay, so here's the first page, The Value of Believing in Yourself. Again, the story of Louis Pasteur. Dedicated to my dad, J.O. Johnson. It says down here, this tale is about a person who believed in himself, Louis Pasteur. The story that follows is based on events in his life. More historical facts about Louis Pasteur can be found on page 61. I will not be reading that, but if you would like to borrow my book, you certainly could see for yourself. Okay.
Hi, website. How are you, website?
I'm doing something for school. Can you sit down, please? Okay. Once upon a time, in far-off France, there lived a man named Louis Pasteur. Now and then this man, who was a doctor of science, would put on his tall black hat and his bright orange coat and walk in the park. So you see him walking in the park. I believe I can, he would say to himself as he went along. What do you think it was that Louis Pasteur believed he could do? It was something important, so important that Louis Pasteur didn't even notice the other people in the park. I must find the invisible enemy, he said. I must find the rabies germs that hide inside people and make them sick, so sick that they die. Oh, wrong way, sorry. Once I find that invisible enemy, I'll think of a way to kill it. Then sick people will be well again. Louis Pasteur sat on a bench and thought about that invisible enemy. I just know I can do it, he said. What a silly man, some children who happened to be near said. If an enemy is invisible, that means no one can see it. If no one can see it, no one can find it. Louis Pasteur pretended he didn't hear those nosy children. He hurried to his laboratory on Elm Street in Paris, where he worked every day. Some of the children followed him. So did some grown-ups who wanted to know what he was doing. They peeked through the laboratory window. You'll never do it, they shouted. No one can find an invisible enemy. Louis Pasteur didn't care what the children thought. He didn't care what the grown-ups thought either. He believed in himself. I know I'm right, he said. I'm sure I can do it. So because he believed in himself, he kept on working. He kept on doing what he thought was right. It was hard work, but Louis Pasteur was happy. He knew that if he did find the invisible enemy, the rabies germs, he could help many sick people to be well again. This is the scary part. While the mean children laughed and poked fun at Louis Pasteur, who was working in his laboratory in France, a little boy was laughing and poking a stick at a poor sick dog in another land far away, a land called Germany. The boy's name was Joey. He wasn't really a cruel little boy. He was just thoughtless, as children sometimes are, and he liked to tease, as children sometimes do. Soon Joey could see that the dog was very mad. He even had white foam around his mouth, foam like whipped cream. He tried to bark as if to say, "Stop it, stop it!" But he couldn't bark. Something was wrong. Do you know what was wrong? What's wrong, Cannon? Rabies germs. You got it, buddy. Suppose you could look inside that dog with a great magnifying glass or microscope. What would you see? That's right. You'd see the invisible enemy, the rabies germs that were making the dog so sick. The dog was so sick and so mad that he would bite at anything, even at the rocks or the trees. If he could, he would surely bite the boy who had poked a stick at him. When Joey went off, he didn't notice one very important thing. Can you see what that thing was? Can?
We forgot to shut the gate.
Yep, yes, it was the gate. The gate in the fence had come open. The mad, sick dog could get out. He could run after Joey and bite him. I'll get good at this by the end of this. That's exactly what the dog did. Ouch, ouch, cried Joey as the mad, sick dog bit him on the arms and the legs. And then it happened. The invisible enemy, the rabies germs that were hiding in the dog, traveled from the dog's foaming mouth into the little boy. Help, help, Joey shouted. Daddy, please help me. Joey's father heard and ran out of his cottage to see what was the matter. When he saw the dog biting his little boy, he was terribly afraid. Yes, he was a big, strong man, but he was afraid. Sometimes even daddies are afraid. But Joey's father was brave. He ran toward the dog. Get away, he shouted at the dog. He waved his arms and stamped his feet. The dog ran off. Joey's father chased the dog back through the gate. When the dog was safely behind the fence, Joey's father carefully closed the gate. But the damage had already been done. The little boy was lying on the ground, crying and bleeding. He had been bitten 14 times. I'm afraid my boy is going to be very sick, said Joey's father to himself. His father picked Joey up. Did you tease that dog? He asked. Yes, Daddy, and I'm sorry, whispered Joey. He was badly hurt, and he felt very tired. I'll take you home, said his father sadly. He was sad because he knew the terrible thing that had happened to his son. The little boy now had the invisible enemy, the rabies germs, hiding inside him. Soon, he was not only hurt and tired, he was sick. Everyone who knew Joey was sad. Everyone knew that if a person was bitten by a sick, mad dog, that person would surely die. Before long, the sick dog died. It was very quiet in Joey's home. His parents did not know how to help Joey. They could only wait. Then one day there was news. Joey's mother saw it first, and she shouted for joy. Wonderful, wonderful, she cried. How could she think anything was wonderful when her little boy was dying? What do you think she had read in the newspaper?
That the guy he got the germs.
He found a way to kill the germs? We're going to see. Remember this book, don't you, buddy? Yeah. A doctor of science has found a way to save people like Joey, she said. He says sick people like Joey have been invaded by an invisible enemy. He has found the enemy, and he has also found a way to kill it. Do you know who that man was? What's his name? It's been a while since we read this.
Louis Pasteur.
Louis Pasteur. Of course, it was Louis Pasteur, the man who believed in himself. He had known he was right, and he had done what he set out to do. Father, we need a carriage, said Joey's mother. We must take Joey to Paris to see Dr. Louis Pasteur. Perhaps he can save Joey's life. Louis Pasteur in Paris finds cure for rabies. Joey's father ran. He hired a fine carriage and a stout and able coachman. 6 fast white horses were hitched to the carriage. Joey's parents wrapped Joey in warm, soft blankets and put him into the carriage. I wish that dog hadn't died, said Joey sadly. At least, I wish I hadn't poked that dog with a stick. Let's go, shouted the coachman. We haven't a second to lose. Hurry, said Joey's mother, as the horses galloped down the long, long road to Paris. Hurry, pleaded Joey's father. Even the trees beside the road seemed to whisper, hurry, hurry, faster, faster. They were tired and dusty when they arrived at Louis Pasteur's door, but they were happy to be there. They knocked, and Louis Pasteur opened the door and welcomed them. Dr. Pasteur, said the mother as she smiled a brave smile, we have come a long way to see you. Our little boy was bitten by a mad dog, and he's very sick. Can you help us? Perhaps, said Louis Pasteur, I have found a way to kill the invisible enemy, those rabies germs that hide inside of sick animals. Perhaps I can kill the ones that are hidden in your little boy. I have invented a vaccine, explained Louis Pasteur. In my vaccine are magical soldiers with bright eyes that can see in the dark. When they see the invisible enemy inside of Joey, my magical soldiers, who are very strong, will kill that enemy. See their big magical eyes? Joey had been put into bed. When he heard Louis Pasteur say this, he rose up a little. Dr. Pasteur, he said, do you mean... Okay, Candace, do your homework. Do you mean your magical soldiers will be inside of me? Yes, said Louis Pasteur. Joey looked puzzled. But how will they get there? This part should be scary for any kid as well, but I really liked it. Very easily, said Louis Pasteur. My magical soldiers can march through long needles and into little boys. They march together like a mighty army. But needles hurt, said Joey. Sometimes, admitted Dr. Pasteur. But can you be brave, Joey, while my magical soldiers march into you? If I were Joey, I would say no to a needle this size. But if that's blown up just for visual purposes, then it's okay. And obviously it was, because needles are not that big. I'll be very brave, promised Joey. Then you'll be the very first person to have a shot of my rabies vaccine, said Louis Pasteur. This worried Joey's father. The very first person? He wondered. Will it be dangerous? Are you sure your vaccine will work on a little boy? I believe it will, said Louis Pasteur, and he gave Joey his shot. The magical soldiers marched into the little boy. When they got inside Joey, they found that it was dark. The magical soldiers peered here and there with their magical eyes. At last they spotted the enemy, those rabies germs that had always been invisible until now. At first they saw only 12. Can you see them too? He knew that there were really millions of germs inside Joey. So here are the magical soldiers, and here are the bad rabies guys. You'll never beat us, said the terrible germs. Yes, we will, cried the magical soldiers. The battle began. The magical soldiers attacked the invisible enemy and fought bravely. It wasn't very comfortable for Joey. Would you be comfortable if you had an army of magical soldiers fighting a war inside you? But as the soldiers in the rabies vaccine killed more and more of the enemy, Joey felt better and better. When the last of the enemy had been beaten, Joey felt well, so well, that he jumped out of bed and danced around in a circle with his mother, his father, and of course, with Dr. Louis Pasteur, who felt as much like dancing as any of them. Hooray, hooray, they all shouted. Then Joey thanked Louis Pasteur and rode back home to Germany in the carriage with his mother and father. In Joey's village, people lined the streets. They laughed and waved to Joey. Everyone was so happy that he was alive. Even the yellow sun in the sky seemed happy.
Oh yeah, I forgot this.
Above the rooftops, the village bells rang out a joyful tune. They seemed to be singing, safe, safe. Now everyone is safe. No one has to die of rabies. This is my favorite. Meanwhile, back in France, where he lived and worked, many people now wanted to talk to Dr. Pasteur. "Dr. Pasteur," said some of the children, "we think you are wonderful. You found the cure for rabies." "Yes, I did," smiled Dr. Pasteur, "and I am very happy. But do you know what made me feel so good while I was trying to find the cure?" This is, again, the best part. "When I was working in my laboratory," Dr. Pasteur said, "I enjoyed the times when I believed in myself. In those days, I didn't always succeed, but even if I didn't, it always felt good to believe that I could." As you can see, our story ends happily, and now perhaps you might like to think about yourself. Of course, what you may decide to do in your own life may be very different indeed, but whatever you choose for yourself, let's hope it will make you happier. Just like our good friend, Dr. Louis Pasteur. Something cool here in this historical facts that I won't read all of because there's a lot, but Joey, who was the boy in the story who was bitten by the dog and actually had the first rabies vaccine, served as a watchman for Dr. Pasteur, where he worked, I think it was like a gate man, for many years until I think he passed away. Let me just look real quick. Yeah, he became the gatekeeper at the Pasteur Institute. He stayed there loyal to Dr. Louis Pasteur for the rest of his life, which I think is a pretty cool story. So anyway, again, this is my favorite book as a child. Asked my parents, they read it to me countless times. Who knows, but it's The Value of Believing in Yourself, the story of Louis Pasteur. Alright, thank you very much.
Goodbye, Internet. I'm Cannon Kinsella. Woo!